Welcome to Kaks Bar and Podcast, Canada's first podcast bar. What that means is you can come here for food, you can come here for drinks, you can also come here and record a podcast. Come on down, we're located in downtown Calgary, Alberta in the Beltline area. See you soon.
And we're rolling. Kaks Bar and Podcast. Guest today is Spencer Streichert. He's been around a lot now, and it's pretty funny. I'm pretty embarrassed to say, but I realize now I've been using my mics incorrectly for over like 100 fucking podcasts. Like, cause I just put out a Laughs at Kaks a podcast episode. Spencer was also on that one recently. It was from the last comedy night. I gotta apologize for the dog shit sound. I was long story short, experimenting with different microphones and stuff like that, and then I kind of lost track of my old setups and then I just went ahead and filmed that one that way just because there was a lot going on that night. But now Spencer came and saved the day, literally, like fixed the actual mic, and this is the way it's supposed to sound. And hopefully all of my episodes now sound like this crisp going forward here.
You know what's really funny though is like it's one of those things that you kind of just have to learn the hard way. Like it's not an easy one to figure out right away, and there's not really tutorials on it, right? You kind of got to fuck around with it, and like excuse me. Like the funny thing is that you know the saying where it's like a tool doesn't make the carpenter, right? You know, like
I never really heard that saying, but I know what you mean. Yeah. It's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean.
It's
basically saying it's the person doing the thing, whatever. Yeah, is the most is what's important.
And I think the only way that you figure that shit out is by trial and error. You know?
No, I'm not like the most like, what do you call it? Go on YouTube and watch like an instructional. I have to like do shit and just fuck up. But I don't know, man. Like I had the sound good for the first, like 40, 50 episodes, but I didn't really tamper with anything. And then somewhere along the ways, these things just kind of break down, and then you kind of have to force yourself to start to learn this shit. And then I wasn't good at learning it. So I don't have a producer, man. One day.
Well, and I think that part of it too is I've been doing a lot of research on it recently because I'm getting ready to do my next comedy album in the spring. And part of what I want to do with it is like I want I'm aiming to do it in a small room that's got low ceilings, but I also want to pack it, and I want people to not worry about like putting their drinks down on the table and stuff. Like I want to pick that shit up. And so I'm like, how do I pick up so much sound? And so I've been learning about omnidirectional mics and bi-directional mics and the hypercoid and like all of those things. So it was like the first thing that I asked, I'm like, are these omnidirectional?
Yeah. I was sitting there like, fuck, I look stupid. Done 100 of these, I don't even know. But I don't know, man. Well, either way, I think it's kind of funny. But Spencer, you're a guest on the Kaks Bar and Podcast show here. So so let's put the focus on you straight up. I know a bit about Spencer now, but at the same time, a lot of people who don't know him, you should. He's a stand-up comedian. He's an actor, writer as well. He's a producer as well in many ways. Like you produce your own podcast show, and a lot about like just producing like films and things like that too. Right?
Yeah. I kind of got into everything all at the same time. Like right when I got out of high school, I'd been like acting my whole life, but it was like I got out of high school and I moved to Calgary specifically because I grew up in Saskatchewan, and the film industry collapsed when I was in grade 12.
Spencer bio starts now. So, just take us through your life actually, like, and then take me right to the beginning and let's go. Let's get to know you like real thoroughly here.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I was an accident. I was an accident. They were
same here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? I feel like it's weird when people aren't accidents.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Like, I don't really when people say like I'm trying for a kid, that creeps me out, and it also makes me go like, your kid is your goal, right? Like that's your goal, which like fair enough, that should be your goal. But I also feel like kids that grow up being the goal, they don't have as much life experience by the time that they're like 18,
I know. I basically think I know what you mean. Okay, well, I just want to pause on his bio and tackle this.
We need a tumultuous upbringing to get an interesting person, is what I'm saying.
No, I do believe that, but at the same time, the tumultuous upbringing can be a double-edged situation, because then you can also raise like just a terrible person who's like vengeful, right? Like,
100%.
you know, like Hitler had a tumultuous upbringing.
That's true.
And he became Hitler, and then someone else who had a tumultuous upbringing might become like who's someone who had a tumultuous upbringing that just turned into a gem of a human being.
I mean, me? No.
Yeah, Spencer right here. Yeah.
I'm also really humble, if you don't know.
You are, bro. You are. Hey, but going back to that topic, like, do you mean like, okay, because like sometimes life kind of, you know, when you live it long enough, don't you feel like it's like this is like who would ask to just come into this existence and deal with like the good times are good, don't get me wrong, but the horrible times are like you're like there better be some good times to balance this out, because if it's just continuous horrible times, like that's insane. Like, why would anyone sign up to come into existence per se willingly?
I totally agree,
you know?
And I think that there is a there's a balance that you have to have between the two. Like I and by the way, like I am just joking when I say like everyone needs to have a shitty upbringing and, you know, like parents that are like, you know, rocky, like they obviously not. I think that a lot of people, you know, that have a great home life end up becoming good people. It's not like that's something that you need. But I do find that the balance is that I think that if you don't have anything that you need to like any sort of adversary that you need to overcome, that's where
adversity
adversity
okay.
adversary you know what, I'm slightly dyslexic, which is a problem, and it comes out vocally.
I'm actually a bit dyslexic too.
Really?
yeah I got diagnosed in elementary school. Like it anyway, but carry on. Yeah
I didn't get diagnosed until much later in life.
So you just didn't realize the whole time when you're like reading shit. Sometimes you have to, I don't know, like I'm reading shit out of order, and I don't know, it's weird how some people like read. I have to, like, I don't tell them, but I'm actually like putting a puzzle together. You know, but obviously I'm good at reading now because I've done it like for 38 years.
My problem is like I'll look at the end of the sentence and I'll know that, but I have to go back to read the start of the sentence. You know what I mean? Like it's like it chops up into sections that are like
exactly
very confusing if you're, you know, not used to it. But at the same time, like what you were saying about like me not realizing it, I didn't realize I needed glasses until I was in my 20s. Because I just assumed that nobody could see things from a distance, you know. Like it was so weird. Like I'm not good at noticing my own like health problems or like or things that I need to work on or maybe like look into, because I just go, oh well, that's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, if you're trapped only in your own body, unless you're like trying to think of, you know, like, hey, what's like to be in someone else's body, you might assume, like no one else has these issues, right? You know, but you know, but we all have different physiologies, so there's different. So we have different, whatever you call it, whatever. Like some people can see far, some people can't. But you wouldn't know unless you're in that body. So it's not like you're weird for like not noticing you couldn't see, because you only know your own eyes, and then your own perspective's like, oh, everyone else probably has my eyes. Unless you spend time with someone that you can see, that you notice, you can literally like see like a fucking falcon, you know, then you're like, okay, how did he do that, you know?
And it's funny too, because like you notice those things, like when I put on glasses for the first time, I think, like, you know, I'm not the first person to say this, but it feels like going from like 360p to like 4K. You're like, shit, like I can see everything now. This is what people are supposed to have vision like, you know?
Oh man. So like, but when you okay, anyway, well, your 20s, you discovered you needed glasses. So like how you didn't notice, I don't know, when you're driving and stuff, like if someone's pointing at something and you're like, I can't really see that, how is everyone else seeing that? You're like, you know
what's wild is that I didn't get my license until recently.
Wait, I think Aaron was saying that. Actually, I do remember Aaron saying it. Aaron's his co-host on their podcast. They also have a podcast, Misfits on Vinyl. Like super cool podcast. They review music, and actually why the setup of the room is different today is because Spencer's about to be shooting his podcast out of the Kaks Bar Podcast studio right after our show here. So we just kind of preemptively set things up, so we're not like, you know, doubling up on setup time here.
Which is honestly, like, it works out super well, because then, you know, we both get a lot of content out of today, which is 90% of what you need to do when you're, you know, running a podcast and promoting yourself in such a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. You just got to keep keep doing these things. But I also have fun doing this shit. I fucking love it.
It's so much fun. I was talking to my co-host about it yesterday because we went over to his place and did like just an episode between the two of us with just some USB mics, and we were just like, we were talking about it afterwards, and like I've obviously been an actor for a few years, and I've been doing all of the film production and all of that sort of the side of the business, and I didn't get into podcasting until a year ago, and I am now realizing how important it is that you do podcasts in this day and age, like if you're working in the arts or entertainment, because 90% of what you're going to do is self-produced work, and the only way to get people to be interested in your self-produced work is if you have a way to reach them,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And also you got practice, right?
It's
like, because even right now, like I wouldn't say I know my show ain't like a top notch podcast per se yet, but I'm also repping it out because a lot of famous podcasters now, like I didn't realize by the time I was tuning into them, they did fire out like 200 already of these, you know, and then they got good after. So it's like, it's just like anything, you got to practice, and a lot of people don't understand, they're like, practice what? You're just talking. It's like, but that's what I'm saying. Practice talking.
You have to practice talking, and you have to pick up on the things that maybe a listener would not appreciate. Like if you were listening to a podcast, one thing that I have had to actively work on is not saying like and
I have that problem completely.
It's so hard to do though, because it's so much of what our vernacular is. As millennials or going into Gen X or Gen Z, they both sides, it bleeds over. But I had an acting prof tell me in university that was my biggest fault, is that I say like and instead of just taking a pause in a sentence. And as soon as she said it, it fucked me up, because I went, oh shit, I have to think about that all the time now.
Yeah, no, it's true, because when you're really try to pay attention next time you're at a bar just chatting with someone. We literally still throw the words like and like rapid fires. I just did it just now. and it's I don't know, man. It's not good. It's not good. Like podcasting, like all the pros you listen to, the ones you love to hear, trust me, they don't do that, and so you got to, only way to rep that out of your system is to fucking chat and also just meet more people, read body language, like all that. So
and I think that a big one is listening to your early stuff, like starting to listen to it as soon as you can, so that you can pick up on the things that you would like to change in yourself. Because if you're noticing it, the audience is probably going to be noticing it. Yeah. I cringe whenever I edit a lot of my own stuff. But I'm learning as I go, and and we all have a lot on our plate. So I mean, I'm doing the fucking best that I can, right?
Yeah, man. Hold on. You had that topic at the very beginning, and then we segued off about the kid thing for a second. That kind of like made me think too. You're kind of right. Like shouldn't we all be accidents? You're thinking, because like. Think of it. If you're so what's it called? If you have a purpose, then in theory you're almost like that should be the all-encompassing purpose, and it just so happens along the way you get in these cool scenarios, and then you end up hooking up. You
trip and fall, and you have a kid. That's kind of where it makes sense in my mind. Yeah. I find it weird because whenever people say like I'm ready to have a kid, I'm like, how confident are you in your career and in your life that like you're just deciding you're going to have a kid now? And that, like, don't get me wrong, I think that's impressive that you can have that much like self awareness and preservation and being able to selflessly put yourself aside. But personally, I just don't understand it, because I've been working so hard on my career for the past 12 years that if I were to have a kid now, I'd be like, well, that fucks up everything I've worked for so far. I hear what you're saying, and I don't have the right firm answer, because you take a look at all successful people, they come from all plethoras. Some people have like 10 kids, and then some have none, and then some did it the concentrating the career way, and then some did it the only concentrate on your career every third day way. I don't know. Like, so I don't think there's a true roadmap. I think it depends on the person. But what I'm saying is I kind of like my thought process was kind of like what I think you were leaning towards, where it's like, if you just make having kids your purpose, then you're right. How can you
like, are you like showing unique things to the kid? You kind of know what I mean? Because you don't, it's like you didn't have your own purpose, right? Like,
well, and that's where I'm thankful that my parents were both people that had things going on, because it made me realize, like, oh, like you should have a goal in life, you know, like, and and like my mom is my biggest influence, I would say, for sure. Like my mom is, she was a former actor. She's a horse trainer. She's a yoga instructor. She's a heavy machinery operator.
Holy shit.
She owns multiple pharmacies now. Like she's the type of person who, when she puts her mind to something, she does it. And that was what I got to see when I was growing up. So whenever I said I wanted to do something, my mom was like, great, then do it. And there was no like hesitation there, you know, which is great. I think that if I have kids, that's what I want to instill in them too, is if you want to do something, do it. Don't find a reason to not do it. Find 50 ways that you can, you know.
Right.
When I was really little, I started rodeoing, and my mom, we didn't have a lot of money, so I had to go and work and get my first job so that I could buy my own rodeo equipment. And then I had to work so that I could.
We're back on the bio.
Yeah,
Spencer here now. keep going.
But I had to like buy my own rodeo equipment, and then I had to pay for gas to get to rodeos, and you know, pay for my entry fees and everything else. And my mom would help me out if she could, but for the most part, I had to do it myself, and that made me want it more, because I was able to appreciate the hard work that it took to get to the point to even be at a rodeo. Mm-hmm. And then when I was at a rodeo, I was like, okay, well, I had to spend $100 to enter, and I will only get money back if I win. So I really got to work hard on winning. And so it was like, it instilled this idea that there are steps that you can take to achieve your goals. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be overnight. And that's much better, because if you just got it right away, you wouldn't appreciate it. Like if my mom had bought my rodeo equipment and, you know, just took me to rodeos as a kid, I saw the kids that happened for, and some of them turned out, you know, to be like world champions and whatnot. But a lot of them ended up quitting around the same time that I did, but for very different reasons. You know, their reasoning would be like, oh, it was too much money now and I can't do it. My reasoning was, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know?
Keep going. Oh no, Spencer. Do you have siblings?
I don't know.
You know? Okay, so
my parents got it right the first time.
Okay.
Yeah,
they had you. All right. How old was your mom then when she had you?
She was 27.
27. Okay, all right. But prior to having you, she already had like all that career.
She had, prior to having me, she had been an actor. She had went to LA to the American Academy of Performing Arts. So she was there, and she, you know, did a few things while she was in LA. She danced in a fucking cage on a late night show while Santana was doing a guitar solo. Like, there's just like weird shit that my mom did at that time. But then she ended up moving to Australia for a play that she was doing. And then when she was there, she got in contact with this ranch that needed a nanny. She moved out there, and then she started training horses. And then she went back to North America, and she started touring with John Lyons, who is one of the top horse trainers in the world. And so she was basically shadowed by him, trained under him, learned from him, and then applied that, and then was a top show jumping horse trainer and whatnot. Shit. So yeah, so she took a lot of different paths, and I you know, find that super interesting. My dad at that point had went to college on a basketball scholarship, like a community college, but on a scholarship still. And he dropped out after a semester because he just didn't want to be an engineer. And then from there, he spent time logging, and then he ended up becoming a road cyclist, and he qualified for the Olympic team and a few other things. But he ended up getting in a really bad crash, and just it kind of wiped out his whole, you know, progression of his career at that point.
Like he got injured?
Got injured bad. So they met. Like, my mom and I are closer than ever. You know, my dad and I are also closer than ever.
Where was this again? Like, we're in
so we it was in Nelson, BC, where I was born.
Shit,
and
Nelson,
then,
BC. Okay,
and then I lived there until I was 8, and then I moved to Invermere for 3 years, and then my mom and I moved to Saskatchewan, and we were there until I was 18, and then I moved to Calgary right away.
Okay.
And I moved to Calgary because I had started getting involved with the film industry, but the film industry in Saskatchewan literally fucking up and left because the tax credit just went away. And so I actually worked on the very last feature film that was filmed in Saskatchewan, and it was my first project.
Which one? What movie was that?
It was called Stranded, and it starred Christian Slater.
That movie does sound familiar.
Yeah,
Okay,
it had Amy Matzio, a few other actors in it. It was basically the writer director of the film had been the art director on Star Wars and the assistant director on Alien, and had a pretty big resume. And this film was kind of a copy paste of Alien, but instead of a alien, it was a virus. So it was, sort of weird. But
I've seen so much Alien and Predator movies, but I'm trying to go back and remember the first Alien movie.
Yeah, so the first Alien movie where the alien rips through the person's chest, and then they have to deal with the xenomorph. Instead of that, they're on a moon base or a Mars base, and this virus infects them, and they have to figure out who the fucking person is with the virus, and it's a weird movie. It was, but I'm really thankful for that opportunity because it got me in the door. It got me on a big film set the first time that I was ever involved with film, and I was 16 years old, and I had spent.
It was filmed in Saskatchewan.
Filmed in Saskatchewan,
wild.
And it was at the soundstage there. Which, by the way, the soundstage, the film studio in Saskatchewan, is so much nicer than any soundstage I've ever been on. It's fucking incredible. It's this massive old building on the front, and then they have, I think, 4 or 5 different sound stages. But I was shadowing the stunt coordinator on that one because my original goal was to go into stunts because I thought,
oh wow,
yeah, because I was like, well, this is an easy transition from rodeo into stunt work, and I knew a lot of guys that did that. So I spent the entirety of my grade 11 year emailing various producers and ACTRA and film studios and everything that I could just to see if I could get an opportunity on a set. And then ACTRA got me in touch with Rhonda Baker, who was the producer of Stranded, and she's produced a ton of movies. She's one of Canada's most prolific producers, I will say. And she got back to me and said, I would love to have you come on and just shadow the stunt coordinator. And I was stoked. I was like,
you're 18 at this point.
I was 16.
16.
I was 16. So and it was funny because I was fucking failing classes in school, but it was because I was literally spending all my time trying to get into the film industry from a small town in Saskatchewan. It didn't really make sense.
That's just awesome. You knew what you wanted to do. You know what I mean? So many people that's the biggest first problem. I don't know what to do with my life. You at least were hey, it's somewhere in this trajectory, and you're getting after it. That's so impressive, man.
I knew that there wasn't because I grew up, on a ranch, when we were in Saskatchewan, and I did a lot of I worked on a lot of ranches when I got out of high school, and even when I was in high school, I was working on a lot of ranches, and so it was I kind of saw my trajectory going 2 ways at one point. It was I can either try for this thing that I really want to do, or I could just settle and be a fucking ranch hand and rodeo guy. And rodeo, by the time that I was 17, I realized that it wasn't going to be something for me. I had kind of gotten hurt way too much when I was a kid. And although I had found success with some things, I was a pretty talented bareback bronc rider, but I was piss poor at bull riding. I was piss poor at saddle bronc, and I really wanted to do everything it's kind of where I am now, right? Where I'm I'm a comedian, an actor, and a podcaster, and a filmmaker, and all these other things. But the problem is when you're young and you're trying to learn how to do one sport and really excel at that at a semi-professional level, you should just focus on one thing. And I was throwing myself into so many different disciplines that I wasn't learning as quickly as a lot of my peers, and then I was getting hurt really bad, broken femur, broken cracked vertebrae, fucking broke my jaw, broke all my mouth, multiple concussions. It's just so many things went wrong, and I think that it's because I wasn't focused enough, but I needed to do that to figure that out, I think. Well,
but at the same time, by spreading yourself, you got more experience in a variety of stuff that you wouldn't have gotten had you just tailored into say you were straight up just doing the one aspect of rodeoing, or whatever, and I don't know, maybe subconsciously that was your destiny because you parlayed into acting, which basically, from what I understand, shouldn't you need to have loads of experience before you become an actor? Life experience, so you can draw on things. That's why half these childhood actors can't really do well later, because they didn't get these experiences from life and then they start acting right away. Like I don't even know what they're basing it off of.
And I think a part of that, because like there's one of the things that a theater instructor told me when I was younger was not to use theater as therapy. Like that's like a really dangerous thing. So like if you're going to draw on something, don't draw on a fresh wound. Don't draw on something that you haven't like really dealt with already. And you also don't need to draw on anything. You can commit to being in that moment as that character and give just as good of a performance as if you were going full on method, The
method means like literally pretending you're the guy.
That's
acting too, but
yeah.
Okay, but wasn't Christian Bale on the set of, I think it was Terminator Genesis, when he lost his mind. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't he method acting? He just couldn't get out of character.
He was kind of just being a douchebag, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah, because there's a difference, because basically where method comes from is it's Stanislavski's The Acting Method is what it's called, and it was basically that you would be believing that you are in whatever experience you are living through,
that's
right?
What I mean. Like you're actually the guy.
Actually doing it. But then Stanford Meisner ended up taking that and made it way better. And I trained a lot of Meisner. My biggest acting influence, my drama teacher in university, Val Campbell, was a Meisner instructor. And she, so through Meisner, you learn to live believably under imaginary circumstances. And so you can do that without going full method. You can, and a lot of it is based on repetition and really just breaking down the moments of a scene to the point where it just is natural. So
aren't you using your imagination for the most part to try to kind of guess it? Like, as an example, say in one scene, it's like, yo, Spencer, so this is the scene. It's like you just got dumped by your girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, okay. And then in real life, you go back to when you got dumped by your girlfriend. Then you're kind of like drawing on. I'm just wondering here. Like, wouldn't you be drawing on? Okay, that's how I felt. And then you kind of like re-bring up that trauma, if you will, but done in a fictional sense because it's not real this time. But if you've never had a girlfriend, you've never been dumped, then what do you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm just remembering what was that fucking one sappy ass Taylor Swift song? And then how does she act? And then you start acting like that. You kind of know what I mean? Like, shouldn't you need more experience to, or is that not the right way to act?
I personally don't think that's the right way to act. I think that honestly, even if you don't have the experience of whatever your character is going through, you should, and a lot of this comes down to if a script is good or not. Because if a script is good and they've built a character and they've built a world that is so believable and you understand it. Like, for instance, Game of Thrones. I highly doubt Emilia Clarke was crying because she remembered the time that her dragon died, but you believe her in that moment because what she's going through is believing that character is having that moment, and that is what she is currently experiencing. So you don't necessarily have to draw from your own personal experience. You just have to really know who the character is and really do the work on figuring out who the character is and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I did a film a few years ago. It's called Redwater Valley. It's available on YouTube. It's a short film, but it was funded through TELUS, and it was about this kid and this father and son that live on a ranch, and the mother died in a fire, and there's this underlying tone that they each blame each other for her passing, and they haven't really dealt with grief in the appropriate way, right? And by the end of the film, I end up killing my father. It's a very fucking serious movie. It's a lot different than anything that I think people would assume I would do.
I'm gonna check this out because you're always so goofy and positive.
But it
Spencer's got range.
But doing that film, me and the other actor Jared Blake, we literally just spent the whole drive that we were going out to set talking about what our relationship was like and figuring that out between the two of us, figuring out what our character's relationship was, breaking down the script even more, and then when they say, we're ready to roll, it's so easy to drop into it because you've already done all of that homework basically to get to the point where you know who your character is in that moment and what they're feeling.
Man. Okay, but what about someone like Arnold then? Who's like, it seems like, when he first got into acting, like Terminator 2 was sick for his acting, but for the most part, Arnold Schwarzenegger was just Arnold Schwarzenegger in different scenarios. You kind of know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like.
Well, I think that it's because there's a difference between an actor and a movie star. A movie star is somebody who is themselves in every role, and you pay money to go see them. You don't pay money to see
his acting.
Their acting.
Okay.
Like, I would say Joaquin Phoenix is an actor. You watch him and you go, holy fuck, like, I believe him.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Another one. You can look at a lot of those actors. One of my favorite ones to bring up is like Ray Liotta. He's really good in Goodfellas and in like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and a few of these roles that are very iconic. But he's not known for a lot of things. But if you look at his early work, he was on a soap opera for like 4 years.
Oh shit!
And he was doing theater before that. So there's a difference, I think, between the movie star and the actor. Movie stars are like Jennifer Aniston. You don't, you don't watch a Jennifer Aniston movie.
I was trying to think if there's a Jennifer Aniston movie where she wasn't like the character from Friends, basically. In
exactly,
a different scenario.
Right?
I'm trying to think here. I can't.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, anyway.
And whereas you look at Jennifer Lawrence, a lot of her roles are very fucking different. You look at Silver Linings Playbook compared to Mother. Very different roles. So I think that part really helps it stand out, where you can notice if somebody's a movie star or an actor. For instance, I'm not sure when this is coming out, but tomorrow the new season of Fargo is premiering. I had 3 episodes on that, and it was super fun. But John Hamm is one of the leads this season.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And you can tell he's an
Don
actor.
Draper? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Don Draper. Like, you can tell he's an actor, though, because everything that he does, you like, yes, you might watch it and go, that's John Hamm, but at the same time, you're believing whatever character he's playing because he's so grounded and invested in that world.
Yeah, but again, it's like John Hamm's also in his like 50s now,
Yeah.
so he has that ability to also draw on actual, like, it's almost like if you're older, you have more tools to play with.
I think it's one of those things
imagination, you got life experience, you got the technical analysis of the character, the whole shebang. It's like, but to find that in like a kid, I don't think that's realistic.
I think that it can be
unhealthy
unhealthy with kids because I think that a lot of times they have to, because they don't have the training, they don't know the terminology, they don't know like the process of it. And that's not everyone. There are some very talented child actors who have ended up being phenomenal. Like there are a few of them that have used their younger years as basically their theater school. But I would say that when it comes to kids that end up on like the Disney Channel or like sitcoms or shit like that, those kids are usually pushed into it, and then they don't know what they're doing, and then it ends up being dangerous for them later.
Yeah. I mean, and then every now and then you get like I keep have to remind myself like Jake Paul and like Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, they came from that world that so no wonder they're kind of fucked up. When the more I think about it, like, but yeah, I don't know. Hey, back to you for a sec here. So then where did the comedy begin? Like, when did that start?
So it's kind of weird because I moved to Calgary when I was 18, and I was really trying to get into stunts, and then I started kind of falling into acting, and I had done theater shit my whole life. Like, my mom was always like, not pushing me into it, but she was like, if you want to do it, you should do it. And then I would do a play, or I would do something at the talent show that was like drama based. But when I moved to Calgary, I found it was easier to get work as an actor than a stuntman, which is not something that a lot of people like hearing when you talk to other actors, and it's like, oh yeah, it was just kind of easy. Like, I just fell into it.
Why didn't you move to like Vancouver then or something? Because that's a big
it's
film
a
hub
big
with lots of
film
stuntmen
hub,
and everything.
But they're I think when you're starting out, you want to go to a market where you can get some credits. And a place like Calgary, we're lucky because we have so many TV shows that come and shoot here and so many feature films, but they need to hire a certain amount of Alberta talent in order to get their tax credits for the whole production. Yeah. Right. So like, for instance, I wouldn't have half the credits that I have if it wasn't for the tax credit, because because they need to hire you and have you on set for a certain amount of time so that they can get that tax credit, right? You're not getting leading roles here, but actors don't get leading roles in their first few years of performing anyways.
How many leading roles are there even available? A lot of actors act their whole life and don't get a leading role.
Exactly. Like, and I find that it's better to work on stuff and have those smaller roles, because I think that you learn more, and you have to work harder in order to figure out who your character is if you have 4 lines. Like you have to really do the work, and then that prepares you so much more for when you have bigger roles, right? But I moved here because when Saskatchewan film industry collapsed, half the industry in Saskatchewan moved to Winnipeg and the other half moved to Calgary. And I didn't want to live in Winnipeg. So I went, well, I know some people in Calgary. I'll move there. And then the other reason we had CJSW, which at the time I also had, thoughts of radio dreams when I was a kid. I was very interested in broadcasting, and I loved the fact that you could go to CJSW and you could volunteer and actually learn how to speak into a microphone and how to, formulate a show and work within the CRTC guidelines and everything. And they teach you all of that. And all you have to do is like catalog music for them. Like it was super easy for me to make that decision to move here for that. Like my first year that I was in Calgary, I did a handful of films and did a lot at CJSW. And it wasn't until I was here for like 9 months that I even tried stand-up. And the reason that I tried stand-up at the time was because I wanted to get more comfortable speaking in front of people. And so I thought, what's better than fucking going and talking in front of people and you're the only one talking? And I fucking bombed like shit my first time. It was rough. I got up there, I was whispering into the microphone.
But did you know you're like, I can tell that you're funny, okay? So, yeah, like I laugh my ass off of your stuff. So it's like, but you said you got into more from public speaking, but were you always like a funny guy on top of the acting and the bull riding? Were you always just like a goofy kind of clown kind of guy?
I would say I was kind of a clown. Like, and it was like definitely in high school that I figured that out, because I was a kid always trying to crack jokes in class and getting in trouble for it. But I was also, when I was in grade 10, I bought a shitty digital video camera. And I would just go around with my friends filming shit that we thought was funny. And it could be anything from like jumping off of my barn roof onto a trampoline and getting fucked up, or like these weird little sketches.
Man, you literally were you're doing you're doing the Logan Paul thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you guys are the same age, right?
Yeah, I think so, which is depressing because he's worth millions.
Yeah. The path that you took, though, it's obviously, it's not secure at all.
Oh God, no.
So like, what you just like, you have balls, like, so or did you have times where you're like, man, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I should get like more of a secure gig, or in your brain you're always like, no, just because what your mom taught you about like getting after something and going, sticking through with it? And like, I kind of never had the thought of like I need to do something else. Like it actually, like, it makes me physically uncomfortable to think about doing anything else, which is a weird thing to say, but I've done a lot in terms of like other careers, like I worked as a delivery guy for Barbecues Galore and was, fucking there for a few years. So like I learned a lot about the barbecue business, which is an odd thing to know. Yeah. I worked at a lot of ranches. Yeah. And I did, odd construction jobs and shit. And so I don't know. I've always had a way, though, of finding, like, if I was poor, I could, I'm not afraid of work. I'm not afraid of going and getting my hands dirty and working my ass off to get myself out of a hole. But I always have it in the back of my mind that I'm like, this is a temporary thing. Like, I'm not going to do this forever. Like, this is going to be a couple of months and then I'll go right back into it. Or I've had it happen before where I got a job and then immediately, like 3 days later, I get cast in something and I'm like, bye, and that's, I get it. It sucks as a business owner. Like, I'm sure you would hate it if somebody did that, but I mean, I'm still waiting for that to happen because, like, yeah, we're bar restaurant, and a lot of bartenders aren't a lot of actors on side are bartenders. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, or doing this kind of line of work or something like that. But sorry, you had a point there, and then you were Then I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, the only thing I was saying is like that it's just like I'm not afraid of work, so but I'm also not afraid of putting my career first and understanding that like that is okay. Like for instance, if I was working at a coffee shop and I had to fucking leave, I'm like, okay, you're not gonna have trouble finding a barista. Like that's not
I'm not really leaving you hanging.
Yeah, I'm not really leaving you hanging here. Like this is a very competitive job market. You'll be fine.
No.
The problem that I had was realizing early on that I couldn't tell people that were hiring me that I was an actor or something, because I would tell them and I would be like, oh yeah, by the way, like this day I have I'm gonna be on set or something, and they would I worked at a restaurant one time and they fucking threw a fit about it, and then I had booked like months in advance that I was going to be going home for Christmas. It was the first job I ever got fired from. I told them I was going home for Christmas, and and it was months in advance, and I was going to be gone for 4 days. And they booked me for all 4 days over Christmas. It was like the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. And I was like, okay, no one's coming in on the 25th. So that's a stupid one anyways. But then they proceeded to phone me 3 times a day over that time, asking me if I was coming in. And I'm like, I'm 700 miles away. I'm not coming in. Like what do
they want from you?
They wanted me to come in and
instead of pursue these look, I'm a bar owner, but realistically, I know my servers and bartenders, they're not planning to do this till they're fucking 70 years old. You know what I mean? Like that's also when I'd be like, hey, that's amazing if I heard someone had something else cool going on, and like that doesn't hurt my feelings. The only thing though is to
be communicating about it.
Yeah, make it open so we can find time to cover your shit.
Exactly. And that one was sketchy because it was like I was going home to visit my family for Christmas, so it wasn't like it was a career opportunity. But I had told them 3 months in advance that those 4 days I was going to be gone. And so that I came back in on the 5th day, and they literally they waited until I got on the line, like I was a line cook. They waited until I was in my whites on the line and had been working for 10 minutes before they brought me in and fired me. So I was like, you were just doing this to prove a point. And that was where I went, oh, you're shady, but that's where I learned if I was in a place where I might have a job coming up, to not mention it if it was a job that I didn't care about, and a lot of times it would be day gigs anyways. I'd get a gig, say for instance, I'd work as like a temporary person for like a landscaping company. Well, like they're not going to worry if like they've hired fucking 10 temp workers and one of them fucks off after a week. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like those sort of things were not the biggest concern.
Right.
That being said, I do try and be honest about it if it ever comes up again. But I feel pretty good right now with where I'm at, that I'm between comedy and acting, I don't have to worry about it as much. Like I can, when I pick up gigs, it's mostly working in the industry in some adjacent fashion. So it's not, it's something that I'm still going to commit to and I'm going to be interested in. I'm just, I understand that if I take those gigs, I can't do an acting gig, and I'm okay with that,
So right now then, like you're, you literally just make your living off of your art right now. That's what everyone's trying to get to, man.
Yeah, and it's hard to get to that point though. Like, and there was a lot of time that like I fucking missed meals and shit. Not recently, thank God. But no, I missed a lot of meals when I was younger. I missed a lot of meals. I had to make some sacrifices, and I think that that's the other thing that a lot of people, like for instance, a lot of the people that I went to theater school with all quit doing it within a year of graduating. And same with comedy. Like so many people will start doing open mics and then they quit within a year or two because they don't see the progression, but they're also not willing to be that uncomfortable. They're not willing to get to that point where it's like, oh, if I don't fucking book a gig, I'm not eating. And that's kind of where you have to be in order to be successful. You have to be all in. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with not being all in either. Like, I'm not saying that people that want comfortability in their life, there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's super fucking smart. What I do is fucking dumb. Like in if you compare the two, it's dumb that I'm like, oh, I might be late on rent because I fucking don't know when my next job's coming. But not knowing when your next job's coming makes you work harder for that next job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it keeps you on your toes. Well, I know the feeling all too well. Like being an entrepreneur here, like you're not safe, and you get as much as you put in, and but to go back to like Man, fuck sakes, lost my train of thought again. I was like, it was like forming in real time here, and then, fuck. Okay, well, anyway, yeah, I lost my train of thought there, but drew a massive blank just now.
Dude, that's so funny.
Fuck that. I don't know what happened. Like, what the fuck was in this?
I feel like I talked too much, and you went, I don't understand why you had to keep talking there,
No,
Spencer.
fuck no, dude. No. I was processing because you're like, you got my mind going, actually. Yeah. Perfect. That's what I need.
You need more brain juice.
Yeah. Need some booze. Yeah, I'm also recovering from red ale.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Yeah. No, I'm also recovering from a flu here, unfortunately. So now I'm seeing in real time the what do they call that shit? Like COVID brain or whatever. Yeah. There's definitely a bit of that going on because like as you were chatting, no, like I was like, oh yeah, fuck, I want to ask him this, and then
oh, dude, and
like, what the
also,
fuck?
my apologies because I will fucking rant. I'm really good at just going off on a train of thought and not stopping.
That's podcasting though, right? Sweet.
Thank you so much.
No worries. You're still doing okay?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much. Okay, so now I have a question for you. What made you want to get into podcasting?
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Rogan and also just like all the years of bartending, I would always chat with people because like one of the things I liked about bartending was those late nights on a Monday or a Wednesday when in like the bars basically kind of like winding down and it's like just 2 or 3 guys at the wood and you're just chilling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like they've been drinking a while and you're just chilling, but you just meet all sorts of cool people and some uncool people. But I remember just hearing so many people's life stories and chatting basically like this. And I started realizing, I was like, at first I thought, oh man, like, is there something here? And I started getting more and more feedback from these people that I'd be bartending to. And like they come from all walks of life, man. Like some are successful, some aren't, some are doing well, some aren't. And I just met such a plethora of humans. And I just remember, but the general consensus I got from a whole bunch of them was that they said, the gist of what they said was they're like, hey, you have this ability to like get people out of their shell. I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's just because you're a bartender. And I sat there, thought about it. I was like, is this really an ability? And then, so I just started being more cognizant of like noticing when I'm talking to people, like, for some reason I can bring out a story out of them or like bring out get them, like I know how to just naturally ask the right question pretty directly to get them on a tangent. Kind of you know, and like I wouldn't say I did that to you just now. I think you were just going to rant anyway, but in an awesome way because like you're a talker as well because you're arts guy as well. But I just knew I had something there, and then I started, and I was always listening to Joe Rogan. Like I just love him, hate him. I've been listening to Joe Rogan forever, and then like I just knew at some point I just wanted to like continue doing that, and then I didn't put two and two that it's going to be podcasting, but it made fucking sense, you know, like, and then I had the idea in my head, and then like we told the story probably 1,000 times now on all the episodes, but yeah, and then my partners at the time ultimately wanted to form the bar. Like my brainchild was the podcast element, and then my business partner was the bar, and then we thought there was already podcast bars. Like we thought we're like we just want to do it as well. Yeah. But then as we progressed, we realized we're the first podcast bar like in Canada and maybe even fucking North America actually. Like so that's a like, you know, feather in our cap. But yeah, no, man. Like, it's just I just knew I have a whatever like knack for talking to people. You know, so yeah, that's basically that. And then yeah, but actually, fucking right back at you. Like the podcasting, like how you felt like you needed to do it?
I felt like, well, I really wanted to do it, which is I didn't want to do a podcast until it was something that I wanted to do and that it was going to be different, because there's so many podcasts out there that are comedians talking about comedy with comedians, and I love going on those podcasts, but I couldn't imagine doing that every week. You know, like that was, to me, I was like, I already fucking live in this world. I don't want to bore an audience, you know, that might not be interested in it, right?
Right.
And the other thing was, too, is I wanted to do something that could attract people that might be outside of the comedy world to listening to a podcast. And so my friend Aaron Walsh, like co-host of my podcast, we had been talking about it since we both lived in Toronto together, like years ago, because I had been a big vinyl collector and he started getting into collecting vinyl and we lived together. And then I moved back and then he moved back about a year later, and he wanted to go to SAIT for their radio broadcasting program. And I said, well, wouldn't it be great if you had a demo already that was, you talking and actually, presenting a show. So that's when we really got the ball rolling on Misfits on Vinyl. And it was funny because when I was like 18, I wish that I hadn't been so nearsighted when it came to podcasts, because I was so convinced that I needed to go into radio when I was 18, which is so dumb. It's so the opposite of what everyone else in my generation was doing. But I had this idea about podcasts that I didn't think that they were as good as radio. And now I think it's the opposite, but it was only because at the time, when I was really interested in it, there was the Howard Stern show, there was Opie and Anthony, and they were at the time bigger than any of the podcasts that were going.
Is it because you might have, because a lot of people who don't know, like everyone knows what a podcast is now, but I still think a lot of people, they kind of mix up what it is.
Yeah.
Because a podcast, like why I liked it was because, like I've told this before again on the podcast, but Joe Rogan's original streamed podcast, it was either episode 1 or 2, it might have been even number 1. But it was just him, Brian Redband, and Ari Shafir, like talking to a webcam, and I remember like on the YouTube channel in the bottom right corner, it said like 1,000 streamers right now, like the number count. I was like one of the original 1,000 in the world. Yeah, like watching, and I remember the main thing I noticed was that, hey, this isn't an interview or like a character skit.
Yeah.
Like, this is a genuine conversation that I'm getting to hear from the Fear Factor guy and the MMA guy. And then I didn't know who Ari Shafir and Brian Redband were yet. But even back then they were probably just coming up comedians. So that's when I realized like that's why I like podcasts. Cause as long as it's I feel like it's like a real conversation. Sorry about the sneeze here, bro.
Oh yeah. Oh, you let it out. Oh, Jesus, that was a...
Oh, God.
God, that was a fucking weird sneeze.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, I'm going to cut that out. Oh, jeez.
I feel like that's the clip.
Yeah. Oh, no. I caught myself in the camera. Like, fuck, I look ridiculous. Yeah, no, I'm seriously getting over this weird fucking flu shit. But, no, like a podcast is a conversation. So as long as you're getting to hear real conversations, that's the joy of it. Because think of it this way, man. Everyone has an Instagram page, and then when you're scrolling on the Instagram page, you might see loads of like photos of the person, but you still don't know their personality. Yeah, like they might even have, I don't know, like their beliefs kind of like you're able to kind of pinpoint them just from the photos or how they dress or whatever. But until you hear someone talk and interact with someone else, you kind of can't get a feel for their personality. That's
totally true.
Yeah. So like, that's what I think makes a good podcast, is when you get genuine people having a genuine conversation. Like, so let it get like uncomfortable sometimes, or comfortable or whatever, right? Like, has to be, just as long as we're hearing a natural conversation. But obviously there is an art, because you need to talk in a digestible way for the audience.
And I think the other thing is like understanding that like you can be personable and you can let yourself shine, even if you're doing a podcast that is, I don't know, about different types of truck engines. Like there's like, you can have, that's one thing that I like about podcasts, is that you can have very specific topics, and yet it can appeal to more people than would be interested in that topic, because your personality is coming through.
Yeah. But I feel like right now that's something that, perfect. Yeah. Okay. We still got time. I feel like, but that's one thing that I've been actually getting some criticism for about my pod is that people are like, yeah, you're you're chatting, but oftentimes you're just chatting, not with a direction kind of thing. And I was sitting there like, yeah, but that's just the way the conversation unfolded. But then I've also had feedback where people also enjoyed that, because they're like, oh, Shawn, I really got to know you on your podcast. I didn't know like that's the way your personality is. But I think going forward, like I am going to be doing some more segmenty stuff. Like obviously we have the Laughs at Kaks Comedy Show
Yep.
night, like that's centered around comedy, right? I'm probably gonna segue now and do like an MMA style podcast because like I love mixed martial arts. That's actually my super number one passion. I'm a fanatic for that shit. And then so but I'm not gonna abandon the natural organic convo, because like I feel like that's what got me into it. So somewhere out there, like I'm in many ways, I'm making this for people that enjoyed it the way I enjoyed it,
And I think that you can have the organic conversation no matter what. You just have to, and it's not even necessarily making a point of making that a part of it. It's just making sure that like you never get away from that. You can fine tune other elements of your podcast and still have organic conversation, and it comes through. Like those are the things that come through.
But I do have interests in hobbies. I do want to like your Misfits on Vinyl podcast. You love music, so you're getting to like listen to it. And I know loads of people review movies, but like I'm gonna start doing that because I love fucking watching film too. Like I think Kayla and I are gonna watch the Napoleon coming up soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a movie review after that one. Yeah, you're in acting and everything, but do you watch a bunch of film too?
I do. I would say now I watch more like TV series just because streaming makes it so fucking easy to binge a series. But I really love film. I mean, like it was a big reason that I wanted to get into acting when I was a kid was I loved watching people make a world believable, Like my favorite movie of all time.
Let's hear this.
kind of hacky because everyone has it in their like top 10, but Goodfellas. I remember I watched that when I was 12 and I remember just being blown the fuck away by every element of that movie. The sound design, the cinematography, like when they do that long 8-minute long tracking shot through the restaurant and you're like, this should not be in a movie, but it is, and it's still interesting.
Man, I don't know what it was about that movie too. I love Casino, Goodfellas. There was another one here like that. It was in that realm of movies. It's not Godfather, but is it just those two, Casino and Goodfellas?
Scarface.
I love Scarface too, but
good.
I remember loving those movies literally as a child.
Yeah.
I remember I was like 6 or 7 because I think Goodfellas came out in 1990, I think, or something. And then Casino, I think, was right before that, or was it right after? I don't know. But
after. It was 95.
Oh, Casino's 95. Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, like I remember I was a kid for sure, but as a kid, for some reason, I went from I like Ninja Turtles to like, let's go watch Casino.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. You're right. There was something about the movie. It was just so well done. The storytelling. I remember as a kid really being like, holy fuck, like adults have a hard time.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was thinking. Cause I'm like this is what they deal with. And then I was really like thinking about it. And my brother, I think, watched it with me. No, my brother did watch it with me. I have an older brother who's we're pretty close in age, but like I remember him and I both were just like, because my mom would come down, oh god, they're watching fucking cartoon. No, wait, they're watching what is it? Goodfellas, like mob movie, like intricate human nature fucking mob movie. So I think like as I get older and I reflect on that moment, I think, and tell me what you think. It's like I think those movies tap into our DNA because obviously we're a result of thousands of years of DNA. So when we see someone going through like that crazy fucking drama that that Ray Liotta's characters are all going through, like deep down is activating some kind of like, it's kind of like, I know in some past life in this bloodline, like we were involved in some shit like that too, and it was so crazy while it was happening. But
I also think that a part of it is because of like the way that it is shot, and like don't get me wrong, the script alone and like the characters, like the acting in that film is amazing, but the way that it's shot, there's so many angles that kind of break what you would want to see in a movie. Like there's the whole when he's in he's going through the bathroom trying to find the Coke and she had flushed it all, and and then he comes out and he's like, Karen, like, but there's an anxiety in that because of the way that the angle of the camera is. You see the whole fucking room, and so you see him in the corner going through this mental breakdown, and you see her standing there in the doorway just absolutely mortified. And so it taps into this subconscious anxiety that you have where you're like, if I was in that situation, I don't want to be either of those people.
That's so interesting that you're talking about the angles, because you're actually involved in film.
Yeah.
So you're watching it from story, production, and also noticing angles and like that's shit that I didn't realize was happening to me. That's the movie magic, right? Because even as a kid, I remember being like, hey, this movie sucks, and I didn't really know why. And then now as an adult, I'm looking back like, oh, like it's because it's filmed all
fucking weird,
all weird, or like not creative enough.
Well, and I think that a lot of the problems too, like I've heard from a lot of friends of mine that went to film school, like don't go to film school if you want to be a filmmaker. Like go to film school if you want to work in like, you know, as a gripper or a sound engineer or like a cinematographer, but don't go there if you want to be a filmmaker, because they teach you the rules. And I think that the rules are super important when it comes to how you frame a shot and everything. But the really good films that stand out are the ones that take those rules and break them, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that you do have to know what you're breaking in order to make it good, because you can't just go all willy-nilly fucking doing whatever. But there's something to be said for, if you just follow the rules too much, it makes it so stagnant.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, well, movies back in the day. Spencer, we're gonna wind this down actually, because you got your pod to shoot.
Hell yeah, okay.
After this, yeah. But like I was gonna mention, because you take a look at something like 1940s Casablanca, right?
Yeah.
Like back then they filmed. It's kind of like one shot, two guys talking for a long fucking time, and then slow build up music, and then all of a sudden, like it's a completely different kind of movie compared to like Quentin Tarantino's
but
movies,
a big reason
right?
that they had to do that too is because they were shooting on film, and so the actors had to be really fucking good at their characters at that point, you know, like they had to know what they were doing. So you were able to get, I think that digital has really fucked us in a lot of ways in that regard, because you're not getting as interesting of performances in the regard that you could have back then, because you're seeing two people have a conversation for 10 fucking minutes and it's one take. But that's because they only had film. They had to get it in one way, you know, they had to get it in one fucking frame. And so then they would get that, and then they could move in for the close-ups. But now you get a lot of wide shot close-ups, and then you get to keep redoing it, and it's not necessarily going to be the same because you don't have to rehearse it as much beforehand. Back then they had to do rehearsal before they rolled camera. And one thing that I'll say, and this is like kind of helps us wind it down, but I was in a movie a couple of years ago. It was the first time that I ever worked with film. It was a French feature called Viking. It's a comedy. I'm in it for a very brief moment, but I loved it because the majority of the day that I was there was waiting to go on set. And then we went on set, we rehearsed it for like 20 minutes, and then we rolled on it 4 times, and we got the shot, and I was wrapped. And so I'm like, okay, because of that 20 minutes of rehearsal, we knew exactly what the director wanted. We knew exactly what the cinematographer needed. You knew exactly what all of your beats were. And so you're able to just move so much quicker. Whereas I feel like when you are filming on digital, you can, and it's a double-edged sword, because it can be good and it can be horrible. You'll take as many takes as you need to get it, but you're not as specific then. You're not as specific with what you're doing. And so that's why I think movies like, you know, that were filmed on film, like Goodfellas, for instance, it's so good because everything was so specific. And they had to make sure that everything was specific.
Are any movies filmed on film these days, or is everything digital?
There are things that are filmed on film, but a lot of times they're filmed on film and digital. Like it's not
doing both.
It's like kind of a weird mix on the camera where they can film it on film and digital. I don't know what it specifically is called.
I don't know how I feel about what I like more, because I love 90s movies too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a noticeable difference between like movies like The Rock, Face Off, Con Air, like these are just some wicked action movies. And then you watch a Marvel movie now, which I love too, but I'm like something about that, because like the 90s ones was film, right? Yeah, like it felt more real.
Face Off is a fucking phenomenal movie that is underrated.
The plot, great movie. The plot is ridiculous, though.
It's so ridiculous, but it's also like amazing acting. Are you kidding? Yeah. You had 2 over-the-top eccentric actors that got to play each other. That's fucking amazing.
No, dude, I love Face Off, and I love the action sequences. The plot, everything was okay. When I say the plot, I mean the actual plot of the whatever, you know, like the switching of the identities. But come on, man, like it's like, okay, man, we gotta go undercover. So Spencer, you gotta swap your face with mine, and we're like, what about our body types? Already on it. And somehow I remember I'm like they just glossed over the fact that somehow all of a sudden they have the same muscle mass and this and that. I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. And then you know, and then I don't know, just how quick they recovered and got into it. I'm like, that surgery would be hours of pain. I mean, days and weeks of painkillers, and like,
and you know, the swelling.
Oh, the swelling, the rehabilitation to use the face, and like, I don't know, like I just remember even as a kid, I was like, that part's the only part unbelievable.
Yeah.
But every other part was like far fetched, but believable.
But believable in the world that they're in.
Yeah. I just thought that was like, I don't know, man. At the same time, I was like, couldn't you just use prosthetic movie? Like,
oh yeah,
fucking, like, because you went through all that to have one meeting with your brother to figure out where you put the fucking bomb in the city.
Yeah,
like so you did it for one meeting,
one fucking meeting.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so a massive oversight, but still, fucking just phenomenal movie. Fucking Face Off.
So good.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can talk about 90s movies.
Oh, dude,
like
100%.
all day and night here. But okay, I'm gonna wind this down here because we gotta set the room up here for Spencer's Misfits on Vinyl podcast here, and he has a guest on that one. Obviously, this podcast will probably come out after he gets this out, just at the rate that I'm editing. But yeah, Spencer, definitely come back on the show. Fucking love talking to you. We'll probably see him again at Laughs and Kaks. Hoping anyway. Yeah, you're going to LA soon. You plugged that last time. You want to plug your other things up to?
December 14th, I'm going to be at the Ice House in Pasadena as a part of the Los Angeles Comedy Festival. I'm on the X-Rated show, which is going to be fun.
Fuck yeah, man. That's like that's like comedy royalty, that area, right?
Oh yeah, and the Ice House is incredible because it's one of the oldest clubs in probably the world. Like it's like if you look at that area, you've got the Comedy Store, you've got the Ice House and the Improv, and they were all started around the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like, well, I mean, I think the only one that rivals that spot now is Joe Rogan's Mothership now in Austin, right? Yeah. Do you plan on like finding your way down there? Is that
I would love to, but I need to find like here's the thing that's tricky about it is like I want to go down there when I have connections down there, and I don't really know anybody in the Austin scene. I know quite a few people in the LA scene. I know a handful of people in New York and London. Like those places.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, but it's easier for me to like. If I was say I'm going to London for a fucking couple of weeks, it'd be easy for me to get a handful of spots. Whereas if I go down to Austin, I know one person. They could put me on their one show, and then I'd be like, "Well, I'm fucking here for 3 weeks. What do I do now?"
Right,
you know?
Right.
So I kind of want to meet some more people before I head down there. I think that it's going to be more beneficial to go to LA and go to London first. So.
Sweet. Well, fuck yeah, man. Well, obviously, like enjoy your trip. I know you're gonna continue killing it. Yeah, no, and obviously want you back on this show, and we should do this more. Yeah. And yeah, guys, tune into Misfits on Vinyl. I'm gonna be tuning a couple of those episodes myself because I'm oddly enough, I kind of want to review the Swiftie episode there because like that 1989 album I do pump in myself when I'm in the gym.
Oh,
so
it's
such
a good album.
So I'm like, I gotta hear what these guys.
Have you heard Taylor's version yet?
What do you mean? Like
1989 Taylor's version. It just came out.
Because she had to redo everything, right? Well, wait a minute, but that album was already pretty fucking perfect.
It was, but because Scooter Braun bought the masters, and then so she doesn't get any residuals from any of her previous work. So she's recorded all of.
She re-recorded
it.
Did they sound the same, or
they sound almost fucking exactly the same? And that's what's even funnier about it, because like now those tracks are number one on Spotify and iTunes and everything else, and the originals aren't getting any airplay whatsoever.
Okay.
So Scooter Braun kind of fucked up by buying that, I think.
Yeah. I don't like. I know who he is. Obviously, Justin Bieber's manager, but that world just seems so twisted. Like that someone like Taylor Swift could lose the rights to the thing that she fucking made. I don't know, man. I mean, but that's your world, the arts world.
Yeah.
So fucking, I don't know, man. I mean, it sounds like so far you've been, actually we'll end on this little topic here, but like, sounds like you've done a good job of kind of keeping the snakes out of your world in that realm, hey? Because it sounds like there's a lot of them.
I've done okay at it. I fucked up early, like when I was really young. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to pay an agent. I didn't know that so you're supposed to pay an agent out of what work they get you. So it's supposed to be 15% max, right? That they get out of any job that you get through them. But I signed with this person who charged me an upfront fee, and then they got me some work and they ended up not paying me the money that I was owed for that work. So I did a.
And you're a kid, you said?
I was like 18 years old.
Okay.
I was young and dumb and just willing to fucking do it because I thought, oh, this is the step I need to take.
Did you like sign something? You didn't realize what you signed?
I signed something, and then when this person was withholding my pay from a job that I did, then I looked at the contract and realized how fucked it was, and I went, oh, actually, this contract means nothing. if you want to take me to court, go ahead, but I will not do anything with you anymore. And they then sent me $90 out of what I was owed, which was in the hundreds. So I was
for
like,
18-year-old, that's fucking a lot.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
Actually, for anyone these days, actually, things are so rough out there.
yeah, but when it comes to like keeping snakes out, it's kind of like it's more so just I don't know. I tried really hard to only associate with people that I think are doing like putting the same amount of work into it as I am. It's not even that like they're doing better than me or doing worse than me. It's like as long as they're putting the same amount of work in and they're humble and they're respectful of other people. That's like the biggest thing. So I don't.
They're a person that works hard.
Yeah, and so I don't want to be around people who are like complaining all the time or fucking like wanting an opportunity and like not wanting
putting in the hours,
and so like, and that's the biggest thing is like avoiding people like that. I also, though, granted, haven't had any like major contracts with like a record company or had a development deal with a TV station or anything yet. Those are things that like I can see coming in the next few years. But I do not. I have not had to deal with that yet.
Your realm of work, though, is very like. There's no set way to get there, though. So it's kind of it is kind of tricky to figure out. Because it could be as simple as the next time you're in LA, like you could just bump into the right person at the right time. Now all of a sudden, bang, you got that deal you need, right? Like so, it is almost like you just got to keep fumbling around, meeting people, doing things, putting just. Kind of like sounds like to me there's an element of just luck and fate involved.
There's totally an element of luck, but I feel like the saying luck is when preparation meets opportunity is truly the thing that you have to consider, because I think that nobody gets truly lucky without having put in some kind of fucking work.
True. I get what you're saying there, and I fully agree. I think that was from Sun Tzu Art of War, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Okay. Everyone have a good night, and all Spencer stuff will be in the show notes. Okay.
Hell yeah.